Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're embarking on a breathtaking virtual tour across the massive, incredibly diverse landscapes of the Indian subcontinent. We often think of geography as just, well, rocks and rivers, right? But it's so much more than that. It literally shapes how people live, what they eat, and how human history actually unfolds.
To get a sense of the sheer scale we're dealing with, let's go back to 1984. When astronaut Rakesh Sharma became the first Indian in space, the Prime Minister asked him a simple question: how does India look from up there? His reply? Just one line from a famous poem: Sare Jahan se acha, better than the whole world. I mean, what a perfect way to set the stage for our expedition today.
So here is our flight itinerary. We're going to cover the view from space, the mighty mountains, a tale of two deserts, the lifelines, and finally, the ancient anchors.
Number 1. The view from space, sizing up the subcontinent.
The first thing you really have to wrap your head around is the staggering size of India. It's the 7th largest country in the world. But it's not just big, it's practically its own isolated world. You've got this towering Himalayan wall up north, the harsh Thar Desert out west, and these vast oceans wrapping around thousands of kilometers of southern coastlines. And hiding in those oceans, absolutely stunning island chains like Lakshadweep and the Andamans. This massive scale, combined with that deep isolation, has created an entirely unique climate and a very distinct national character.
Number 2. The mighty mountains, a landmass in motion. Look at this incredible journey. Seriously, it's like a giant puzzle piece on the move. A long time ago, India was actually attached to Africa, part of a massive supercontinent called Gondwana. But it broke off, and for 50 million years, it just slowly floated north across the ocean until, bam, it completely smashed into Eurasia. As those two colossal landmasses pushed against each other, the earth between them literally crumpled and rose up. Think of it like pushing the edges of a rug together and watching the middle wrinkle upwards.
Now here's the truly mind-blowing part. This collision, it isn't just ancient history. It is literally still happening right now. India is continuing to push into Asia at about 5 centimeters a year. Fun fact, that's actually a little slower than your hair grows. Because of this unstoppable crushing force, the Himalayas are still wrinkling the Earth's crust, growing about 5 millimeters taller every single year. So over a millennium, you're looking at a full 5 meters in added height. Nature is just wild.
Understanding the Sanskrit roots of the word Himalaya perfectly explains why these mountains are so absolutely crucial. It's a combination of Hima, which means snow, and Alaya, meaning abode, the abode of snow. Because these peaks are so immense, some towering over 8,000 meters, acting as a home for elusive creatures like the snow leopard, they act as the ultimate water tower of Asia. They catch the snow that eventually melts and hydrates the rest of the country. Plus, they're deeply sacred, holding these ancient temples that have drawn spiritual seekers for centuries.
As we descend from those peaks, you'll see how this dramatic growth creates 3 distinct mountain zones cascading downwards. Right at the very top, you have the Himadri, or Greater Himalayas. It's rugged, it's permanently covered in snow, and surviving there is incredibly tough. Drop down a bit, and you hit the Himachal, the Lower Himalayas. The climate is much more moderate here, bursting with biodiversity, and it's home to famous hill stations like Darjeeling and Shimla. Finally, you reach the Shivalik Hills. These are the outer foothills, forming this lush transition zone full of rolling hills, dense forests, and an absolute abundance of wildlife, including tigers and elephants.
Number 3. A tale of two deserts, extremes of hot and cold. When most of us hear the word desert, we instantly picture scorching heat and endless sand, right? Well, India actually gives us 2 brutal extremes. Up in the north, there's a freezing cold desert called Ladakh, where winter temperatures plummet below -30 degrees Celsius. Just freezing. Then, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, you have the Thar Desert out west. This is your classic hot desert. Extremely high daytime temperatures, a severe lack of water, and just vast, rolling expanses of sand.
Let's zoom in on that cold desert of Ladakh for a second. The landscape around Pangong Tso is so rocky, barren, and windswept that locals often call it moonland. But here's the crazy part. Pangong Tso is actually a saltwater lake. Wait, how on earth is there a saltwater lake that high up in the freezing mountains? Well, remember that massive collision with Eurasia? This high-altitude landscape was literally folded upward from an ancient ocean floor. The salt simply dissolved from those surrounding ancient oceanic rocks. Isn't that incredible?
Jumping back over to the blistering heat of the Thar Desert, everyday human life has had to entirely adapt just to survive. Instead of simply turning on a tap,
Women here often walk incredibly long distances every single day just to fetch water for their families. And right alongside that struggle, you'll see these brilliant traditional tanka or kund systems. These are ingenious rainwater harvesting catchments built directly into the ground to store whatever precious drinking water they can gather.
I mean, water is so precious here that it completely dictates the most basic everyday routines. Take washing dishes, for example. In the Thar, they have this brilliant traditional method. First, you scour the dirty pots and pans with the desert's abundant sand until they're scrubbed clean. Then you use just a tiny, tiny splash of water for a quick rinse. And you definitely do not throw that rinse water away. It gets immediately reused for household plants. It's a pretty powerful thing to think about the next time you accidentally leave your bathroom tap running.
Number 4. The lifelines, the Gangetic Plains.
Leaving those arid, harsh extremes behind, we glide over the wet, bustling, and immensely fertile heartland of India. As the mountain snow from the Himalayas melts, it feeds these massive, powerful river systems, the Ganga, the Indus, and the Brahmaputra. These rivers flow downwards, bringing vital drinking water, generating massive amounts of electricity, and depositing incredibly rich minerals all across the flatlands. This creates highly fertile soil, which is exactly why this region is an absolute powerhouse for agriculture. And before these mighty rivers finally spill into the sea, they form the massive Sundarbans Delta, this wild labyrinth of mangroves, famously guarded by Bengal tigers. They also wrap around the lush, incredibly biodiverse hills of the northeast. They truly are the lifelines of this entire civilization.
Number 5. The ancient anchors, Aravalis, and the peninsula. For our final stretch, our virtual flight heads south, diving into the deepest geological roots of the subcontinent. While the Himalayas up north are relatively young, and remember, they're still growing, the Aravalli Hills are incredibly ancient. We're talking a staggering 2.5 billion years old. That makes them some of the oldest mountains on planet Earth. Over those billions of years, they've been heavily worn down by the weather, so today their highest peak sits at just over 1,700 meters.
But hey, these ancient mountains aren't just old for the sake of being old. Their immense age means they are absolutely packed with rich mineral deposits. Think marble, granite, and copper. What's absolutely fascinating is that evidence from the ancient mines at Zawar in the Aravallis shows that over 8 centuries ago, Indians were the first people in the entire world to master the incredibly delicate process of zinc extraction. It's a perfect example of how local geography directly fueled early technological breakthroughs.
Continuing further south, past the heavily forested eastern and western Ghats, we reach the massive Deccan Plateau. This is this huge, flat highland that basically makes up the southern peninsula. It's sliced up by eastward-flowing rivers like the Godavari, Krishna, and Kaveri. And as these rivers traverse the rocky, jagged edges of the plateau, they create magnificent, powerful drops, like the stunning jog falls you see right here. This geography doesn't just provide essential water for farming, it provides sheer kinetic energy that's captured for hydroelectricity. Plus, these rugged Ghats are home to ancient indigenous tribal communities whose entire lifestyles are deeply uniquely adapted to these forested slopes.
So, to wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you pondering a question. We've just seen how towering mountains provide a nation's water, how ancient ocean floors create high-altitude salt lakes, and how desert sands dictate something as simple as how you wash your dishes. If the literal shape of the land dictates the availability of water, the richness of the soil, and the extremes of temperature, well, how much of your own culture, your daily habits, and your destiny is secretly being controlled by the geography beneath your feet? The Indian subcontinent proves to us that we are, in so many ways, fundamentally shaped by the earth we stand on.